It's finally here, the Independence Week. Well, we're no independent this week, this is a debate on independence anyway. It's our 13th episode. Might be unlucky, it might be the episode that actually get round to killing somebody. The kind of mood I'm in, I'm perfectly willing to. Know that I'm not any other week, mind you. So this episode, it's intentionally going to be a wee bit more professional. I'm saying that at the start, you can judge it at the end how successful that was. But we'll start our independence debate. Well, let's just go around actually. We've got a big panel of guests, as you'll see for the video if you're watching the video. We'll do a video now. This is first week we're recording in HD. Whether it'll go up on HD, fuck knows, because it's been a 2-minute rush to start this.
It's because you've been out to work it.
Aye, quite correct, and my plan was today, all day this morning, was to figure out how to work it. And
so all day this morning?
All day this morning, exactly, and I got taken away to other things, and I didn't have the time. Other things, so couldn't do it. But we've got to work in more semi-professional kind of, we're here anyway. So let's just go around and take everybody's opinion on what they're for or against it. I'm sure it's no surprise I'm completely for independence. We'll go around clockwise, Mr. Dees.
Unfortunately, I'm not like you. I am against independence.
That's everybody's opinion. Christina, what's your ideas? You're kind of fencing on this one.
I'm on the fence, but for now I'm against independence.
And Nicole?
I'm ready to jump off the fence for independence.
Oh, Nicole's on a fence day, but she's swinging the other way. Right, Chloe Henderson?
Okay.
Doesn't care about politics, so we could then rush her for all she against. Shannon, you any opinions on it?
I'm against it.
She's against it. Oh well, fair enough. And Michael, what's your ideas?
I'm pro-independence.
You're pro-independence, so that's 2 us against, like, no, 3.
I'm mainly for independence.
Nicole's mainly for it, just the part when Craig's talking about votes. Sorry, I've been on a preemptive strike, I do apologise. And Craig, you're clearly against it.
Most assuredly against it.
Yeah. And the main points are boats. Believe so. Are you going to start us off with a boat-related topic?
I'm not, I'll let you start.
You're going to let me start?
Yep.
Right, well, my main one is if we become independent, we've got the right then to get rid of boats, pretty much. We get rid of all this nonsense about the army and the navy stuff we don't really need. I mean, all these folks say, oh, what if we get attacked? Who's going to, what are they going to attack? If they're going to attack us, they're going to attack us nuclear. And no boats in the world are going to stop these nuclear attacks.
That's why you have a nuclear deterrent.
That's why I have 2 or 3 minutes to bring out my point before you get a turn. So, hate yourself doing, son. My turn. Anyway, I'll argue against that again, your nuclear deterrents, whatever. The Navy's not a nuclear deterrent, or no in my opinion anyway. I mean, if the crazy fucker in Iran are going to fire a nuclear missile at it, they're not going to look at us first and go, how many boats have they got first? How many boats? If they've got 6 boats, I'm not firing it. If they've got 5, fire. So I reckon we don't need them anyway. Waste of money. I'm not keen on saying waste of money, but unnecessary money that would be better served elsewhere, in my opinion anyway. We put the money to education and whatever, although that the cast will probably fuck that up somehow. But I'm saying, my first argument is we get rid of that kind of thing, all that the stuff that England and Britain whatever feel necessary to have loads of boats and I'm going mainly on the boats because I can Craig's got 1,000 points to come back at me. But not just boats, tanks and stuff that we waste money on going and fighting for freedom in Iraq. I'm not wanting freedom there, I'm happy with my freedom in Scotland and that'll do me. Anybody else would like to respond?
Yes.
And there we go. We'll give Craig his 2 or 3 minutes to respond.
First off, the Navy does have a nuclear deterrent. The Vanguard class submarines are actually the only form of nuclear deterrent we have firing off the Trident missiles, so the Navy is a nuclear deterrent in that sense. But whether we like it or not, we are an island nation and that wouldn't change with independence, so to that extent we do have vested interests at sea. Whether we like it or not, the North Sea, we've obviously got our oil and gas platforms out there, we've got the fishing fleets kicking about, and we would rely heavily on imports and exports by the sea. Now, at the minute, the Royal Navy does safeguard these trade routes, so as far as I see it, independent Scotland would want to be as self-reliant as possible. To that end, it would be a necessity to set up a navy in order to protect the trading interests it's got. much less, if for nothing else, not to go to war with, but just mainly to protect its interests, to show the level of force it's needed. And to be quite frank, when it's going to cost to actually set that up, along with everything else, you're not going to do it. Quite frankly, I mean, you're looking at, even something like a Daring class destroyer, which would be the ideal ship, you're looking at a build of around 562 million pounds each. That's not including refits, yearly operational costs. Okay, scaling that down, you think about the Type 23 frigates, 150 million each, but running at about 25 million pounds per year. And that's for the larger scale deployments, say out to East Africa, Strait of Hormuz, maybe out into the Caribbean, wherever you need to put them. For the North Sea, you maybe want something like the Australian Navy's Armidale class patrol vessels. Okay, they're quite smaller, 19 million pounds for the base unit, but again you're sort of excluding any sort of operational costs, refits, whatever. And on top of that, you need to set up an entire naval infrastructure. Support fleets, you name it, you need it. And you're just not going to have the money to do it. I mean, a decently sized fleet for actually what you need, you're looking at around about £714 million worth just for that acquisition alone. That's again excluding every sort of exceptional cost. And we will need the fleet to actually defend our trade interests, because we will be importing and exporting mainly by sea. Yes, we'll have the trading with what will be the United Kingdom then, but they won't be our main market. Our main market will be Europe, and we will find secondary and tertiary markets again in the United States and in the emerging BRIC countries, which we actually do quite a lot of exporting to in the form of whisky. In fact, many weddings in Brazil these days, which is one of the BRIC countries, this is true, believe it or not, we've got whisky on tap. Massive amounts of stuff gets drunk there. So we are going to be exporting overseas, and we'll be importing goods overseas as well, so it will be essential. It will go on our main trading routes.
Anybody like to respond or add anything to that?
I'll fire in on this,
Craig Michael's going to reply.
With regards to what you were saying about the independent Scotland would need its own fleet. If that was the case, why are the British government trying to cut back on all the armed services? You can't exactly have a fleet if you're not going to have any boats for the fleet to basically use. As well as that, we're already lost 2 of our 3 air bases in Scotland. It just seems as though the British government are preparing, because the amount of people that are for independence, and then it's just oh well, we'll just take Scotland's armed forces away from them, so as soon as we do become independent, England will just invade us, and then we're their bitches again.
I think I'll reply to that one on England invading us. I think it's a long way off. Independence, I don't think it's going to suddenly England invading folk. I don't think that's going to happen. I can't see that happen. I think if we become independent, it's no much. I think realistically, no much is actually going to change. I think a lot of the powers Scotland will obviously get, but the relationship with England, I mean, you're not going to get searched for a passport at the borders. It's going to stay the same, pretty much. No. In my opinion, I think that'll stay the same. I think basically Scotland, the government just want more powers. They didn't want all this separate armies and whatever. I think a lot of that will stay similar. I see Mr. Dees is to weigh in on this.
The point to respond to that is that that's no independence. What you've just said there, if you want to share with other countries, you're not fully independent. So if we then go on that for the independence route totally, and then having a different question where we should just have more rights.
Are you done? You want me to respond?
Aye.
Well, I'm disagree. I think that's fully independence, because I mean you've got things like NATO where countries share their armies and whatever. I'm thinking just because they're going to share things like that doesn't mean it's not fully independent. I'm thinking, well, obviously I'm no an MP of that, but the way I would imagine, again I've not seen any of the bills or whatever, I didn't come up with the plans are, but if I was there, and a lot of them did have common sense, but if they had common sense, what they'll do is they'll start their own things, but then they'll come up with their joint efforts type thing, because they're not going to have 2 separate whatevers to protect the whole of the UK as it is now. They become independent, they're going to have all their powers and whatever that they want, but they're going to combine forces with immigration and stuff.
No.
They're going to have joint border, can share, if you see what I mean, it's going to be both independent, but they're going to share stuff, like with NATO and the stuff with the UN, they all help each other out type of thing, would be what I would guess it's going to be like.
I can see where you're coming from, but I think that's with passport. I think you're away to border control. You're coming in a separate part. You're coming away from the United Kingdom. You're splitting up for England, Wales, and Northern Ireland. So I think you would need, like say, passport control and that for borders. So you need it obviously in the EU. You go from one country to the next. You're making your passport and you get checked for your passport and cross borders and that. So I think we would take to bring that in. Can you want to respond to that?
I'll pass it on to Christina because I can see she's got something to say.
I have 2 points actually. I just want to declare that I am completely on the fence right now because of like both points that have been said. I have 2 points. One, the border control. I have this fear that England is going to be complete bitches about it and have border control, just rub it in the face. And then the point that you're making, Mark, you're saying imagine. That's imagine. No one knows what it's actually going to be like. You keep saying I'm guessing, I imagine. These are predictions. You can't predict what's going to happen. I think that people just assuming this is going to happen isn't a great way to look at independence. So why change it if you're just going to presume wrong and then...
You want me to reply? You're happy with me to reply? Well, like I'm saying, I am just guessing because they're not being clear on what their plans are, to be honest. I think the way to go about it would be no change because it is the way it is now. We could be assuming wrong. I think the way they need to be more clear. They need to start their campaign and say, this is what we're planning on doing, this is how we want it, before they start going, well, how do you feel about independence? Obviously, I've decided I'm happy that the views I've got, I'm quite happy for to have independence. The way I think it would go anyway. But definitely, I agree. I think they probably went to border patrols with their passport agency fannies. But how long that would last and how long they would pay for that, not so sure. But definitely, I think Alex Salmons need to come a bit more forward with what is one, or not just him, the whole thing. I realise I've got pages and pages on their website. I'm sure, Christ,
You've got one.
what is it, just one page? I thought it'd take millions and millions of things, we want this, but they need it to just be clear about it, get that on the news, but they need, you see all these things back and forward, David Cameron can't force us to, blah blah blah, stuff back and forward on the news, about him saying stuff about independence, and they, Alex Salmon, trying to be big about it, I suppose, we'll decide and whatever. We need less of that, we need more of his plans, what he's actually planning to do, and so on.
And that's why I'd be against it, is just because those plans aren't there.
Mm-hmm. So you're on the fence because you kind of want more details, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
Fair enough. Craig's want to add something to that?
As you're saying, the SNP are not clear in the slightest about where they want to go. Yes, they want independence, but they've also not detailed their plans. Now, forgive me if I'm wrong, but the entire reason for the SNP's existence is to push for independent Scotland. It's been their mandate for years. So you'd think by now they'd actually have a clear vision of how they want to do that and be able to roll out a document today, if they wanted to, and say, look, this is exactly how we want to do it. And I was watching the politics show there at the weekend, and as was said on it, the question at the minute is, do we want to go ahead with independence or not? And the SNP could ask that question today. They could ask it quite easily. Why aren't they asking it? Because they know they won't win it at this present moment. That's the only reason they're not asking it. Personally, I think that's why they're waiting until 2014, so they can try and get a bit more win. But if they've had 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, how long they've been in existence to lay the groundwork for this, they should be able to ask that question right now and have the plan set to actually go straight for independence if they feel that's what they need to do, and if that's what they want to do.
Nicole, you had something to say?
Well, you have to bear in mind that for whilst they've been in power, the world's been changing, they've had other things to focus on. And I'll just backtrack a little bit to the border control thing. I think that's really not an important issue. I'll need to buy a passport, I don't want to vote for independence. And also with the Westminster pushing the SNP to bring the referendum sooner rather than later, I think that's going to make people vote no more because they've not got enough time to get all the facts together. And I don't think that's right, especially when he said, I think it was only last week, vote no for independence and then we'll see
what I can bring to the table for Scotland to have more power with. I don't think that bribery is very good.
The thing to be said there is that the reason they were, well, I think personally the reason they were looking to do it in 2012 was because when the SNP asked the Scottish public when they would want the referendum, they said 2012, latest early 2013. The SNP took this in and went, you'll hit it in autumn 2014. So when they keep coming out with stuff, can we listen to the people of Scotland that, well, obviously you didn't.
Well, with only a year's difference, I'm not too bothered about that. I vote SNP all the time. I think if they need an extra year to get a good strong case forward, then I'm happy for them to have it.
But again, that's quite a difference. So they shouldn't need an extra year to have a strong case. Their sole existence is to push for independence, should have that case sorted. And yes, they've been in power for what, 7, 8 years now? I'm not exactly sure what it is. But for the many years before that, they weren't in power, where they didn't have to concern themselves with the really intricate details of running government and everything that entails. They could have been actually focusing a lot more time and effort on getting everything prepared. Because yes, the world has changed, but it's not changed to the point where if you backtrack 10 years, it is completely unrecognisable as in the way things have happened in the past. You know, it's not as if we went from being like an entirely industrialised society back to living in the Stone Age again. You know, so it's not a massive change in society. It's one that they could have planned, like they've had their plans set for, and there's really many changes to it.
I want to actually reply to that. I think if you go back 10 years, there's major changes. I think everything's changed in even five years maybe. Massive difference. Obviously, I was not quite as old, and I can't remember that far back. But I think you go 10 years back and into the Labour generation, and it's a big difference. Something else. A point before that I wanted to think. Oh, that was it. I'm not sure if I've already said this or not, but I think as far as Westminster pressure on him, I think the kind of person Alex Salmond is, the more pressure they put on him, the further he'll put it back. Just honestly to spite them. Maybe no, but that's my opinion of him anyway. That he's not going to be he's not the type of guy that's going to be pressured, and having it when they want it. And I think the more they pressure, the less likely he's going to get it. Hold on a minute. What else did I have? Something else to say about him. Salmond. I'm not his biggest fan. I'm a big SNP supporter, but I'm not his personal biggest fan. That'll come back to me at some point, I'm sure. That's why we had the thing at one point that I didn't realise that I couldn't respond to every point. So I've forgotten half what you said, to be honest. Alex Salmond. I'll let you continue these, and I'll come back to my memory.
I think with your point with Salmond, you're correct with Salmond. The more he gets pressured into it, the more he'll go, no, I'll get it later. I think the point that even proves that is when they did say if Westminster does force me to do it in 2012, I'll get the police and I'll make sure the referendum doesn't happen. But it's kind of a weird thing Alex Salmond saying that they're making sure that the referendum won't happen. So I think that proves your point there, Mark, that he is that kind of guy.
I definitely, I think, but nonetheless I do think he should be pressured into him. I mean, the SNP, they got a major majority in the last election. They're clear majority government. And when it comes to independence, stuff like that, it's really nothing to do with Westminster when it happens, really. In my opinion, anyway, it's got nothing to do with them. And the SNP government, single government, in a system that's supposed to create coalitions. Christina's looking at me there like, oh, we can some. Did not sleep through all the politics. And a system that's designed for coalition governments. They managed to get a majority single government, which is, say what you want, voter apathy and whatever. Not a lot of folk voted, but the folk that did vote in their majorities voted SNP, which gives them the next 4 or 5. Is it 5 years now? Probably 4 or 5 years. In power, and whenever they feel they can hold a referendum, well, I'm going to trust that they're going to do it at the right time, because I'm that kind of idiot that trusts government. But definitely I think whenever it's clear I'm going to vote for it either way, but I think I'm happy for them. I want them to have the referendum sooner because I could vote yes, but I think in reality I'm glad if they take the time and they get their point across to more folk and they get more people to understand what this independence is. In fact, if we get more people in general to vote, because I think just over 50%, maybe not even 50%.
I think it was just under 50% of the population voted, which again, it's to be applauded the SNP did get a majority who voted, but when you actually take it into context, they got a majority, but when only half the people voted, you're only talking about maybe a 25% vote in the country that they got.
But at the end of the day,
But
you can only count the votes.
This has to be applauded, as you say, it's set for coalition governments and they managed to get a majority. I think it was more down to the fact, obviously, people are fed up with Labour and the Lib Dem voters, how can we say, feel a little bit let down from the government.
Well, as I say, again, I've completely forgotten what I know, as soon as somebody says something, my mind goes elsewhere and then I'll lose track of what I was going to say. But even if they can just get more people to actually vote, I've talked about my opinions before. I think it should be compulsory, or at least it should be gone out. Instead of just putting leaflets through the door, more folk need to vote, especially folk that are interested and that will complain later if they didn't vote, and they'll still they'll not vote on the independence yes or no, and then they'll still have a view on it. I think if you've got a view, then go and vote. It's not hard. You tick a box. It should be compulsory. I mean, the census is compulsory. Who bothers about that? What we need is for it to be mandatory or get a fine or whatever, and more folk will vote. And I mean, even if they are voting against my opinion, at least you're voting. And I think that's what we need, more folk to vote. So I think as well, if they take their time and if they're saying 2014 or whatever, they get across to more people about it. Obviously, they're wanting the view to go across is vote yes for it, but as long as they're getting more folk to vote and just take part, and if they're taking the time to do that, then I can't complain. I will complain, but really I shouldn't. I'll pass on to you, Andrew. What did you have to say, really?
This is done.
I know, it's complicated. I mean, as soon as somebody else says something else, you do forget the point that you just had, which is, we're trying to minimalise that tonight, but...
As I said, Bill, as we have talked about before, that I agree with you, voting should be compulsory. I think what knocked a lot of people was obviously the expenses scandal and all that, and I think people are just fed up with politicians now and can't really be bothered voting, which isn't the best idea. But there's a point I'd like to bring up here, going back to your favourite topic, boats.
Oh, here we go with the boats.
See, we've still got a shipbuilding industry in Scotland, and I still think it's a vital industry that we have. Now, you go back to 2007, where Scotland actually received 392 million for the building of 7 warships over the period of 3 years there. I think they already agreed another contract with somebody for this term, but there's fears that if Scotland do become independent, that there's not going to be much more investment, because they're probably going to go down to places for Portsmouth and that, instead of Clyde, to get their ships built. So what are they going to do?
I'll quickly say something and then I'll pass on to Craig, because it's his specialty. Obviously, I do go extreme on the anti-boats. Clearly, it's usually just for comedy effect. I mean, I have nothing against boats apart from Craig annoys me with boats. And of course, Glasgow, the Clyde, that's where for years that's where what happened with boats. I mean, you watch Billy Connolly, you see any of his documentaries in Glasgow, that's what the industry was there. So boats are a big part in Glasgow, especially with the building. Hopefully they will keep the contracts. Hopefully, I'm not saying we do get independence. I think that the Glasgow and Clyde's it's well known even in England, I imagine, for their building boat quality. I mean, I didn't ken anything about boats, to be honest with you. But I mean, for the time that they've done it and the amount of boats they've clearly made there, I think the reputation will sustain it, or I would hope so anyway. Obviously, we become independent. England, of course, are looking for somewhere in country, I would imagine, But you never know, like I say, these deals have to be kind of ironed out, and like they're sharing stuff like that. I'm sure that would be part of all the deals that they need to negotiate. I highly doubt that all the money would completely go. I just can't see it. And possibly.
There is fears there, because Portsmouth would be a safer option,
Mhm.
but it's still being in the UK, but it's still being
Yep.
stable and that.
Yeah. I definitely see. I understand where the fear's coming from. I think in the negotiating talks and stuff like that, like I wouldn't be NATO, but I think they would have a similar thing. Or that's what I would have anyway.
Right, can I bring up a quick point
I'll
for
let
Craig
you-
talks to me just before I forget it?
Yeah.
Well, I mentioned the nuclear deterrent.
Yeah.
Craig might be actually can more about this than me, but I'm right
It's
in
a bit mostly
thinking
well.
all the UK's nuclear deterrents in Scotland.
Yeah.
The-
I
the,
actually will agree because that's the main thing
They're
that annoys
at
me.
Fast Line Naval Base,
The
which is
vanguards are kept in Scotland. It's the only place that they're kept. The attacks. So
Uh,
hunter-killers are kept down in Portsmouth and in Plymouth, respectively.
but obviously, if we were to become separate, that they would take to go back to the UK.
Correct. They would go down to Portsmouth.
Who pays for the nuclear deterrent going down to Portsmouth?
There would be some legal wrangling over it. At the minute, the current state is that Scotland would have to contribute towards the building of new facilities, but or either that, or there would be some sort of agreement worked out between Westminster and Scotland, because at the minute you're talking about a decade and a couple of £1 billion to build the sort of facility you need. So-
Well, you go on to your main topic or whatever you want to bring up. I think one of the SNP's main campaigns of the last however long actually has been to get rid of Trident. So I can see no such thing as that Scotland paying for any movement. I can see Alex Salmon taking a strong argument. I'm obviously know him, but that's been one of the main campaign to get rid of Trident, and I can't see them spending any money for it to be removed, for England to get it moved out of there. They're not happy about it being in Scotland, and I can't see them contributing any way towards it. Or I wouldn't support that anyway.
That's a dangerous tactic, though, doing that.
Well, I mean, it's they're keeping it here. If they want to keep it there, then I would say Salmon should charge them for keeping it in our waters. But
That's what I said.
sorry, I thought you were talking about them.
Oh yes, yes.
I thought you were talking about Scotland being charged for sending it back down.
No. I'm saying
Oh, I see.
there could be legal wrangling over the fact that if it works out that way, there might be a clause someplace that says if they were getting rid of it, they might have to pay towards the development of new facilities, or the MOD could pay, basically rent out Faz
Yeah,
Lane.
alright, I see. I
They
agree
don't know
with
which
that.
way they're thinking about taking it. It could go either way. Depends on how they feel.
I know exactly. Negotiations would have
Yeah,
to be talked to. I can't see what I got confused, and I thought you were saying that Scotland would take to pay to remove it or whatever.
They might have to pay towards new facilities if that is how. That would come under legal jurisdiction. It would be worked out legally in the court rather than just Westminster saying you're doing it or you're not.
And I think or at least SNP's case for that would be strongly against it. The way they've been trying to get rid of Trident, I can't see it. Anyway, I'll let you get your point. Sorry, it does go back and forward.
Just to answer back on another point that Andrew actually made. We're quite strange for this. The MOD has actually had a history of ordering ships from abroad if it's needed, and with the skill and history of the clay, I think it's highly doubtful they would stop ordering from the shipyards if they gave the best value for money and they thought they'd do the best job on it. That they would go for where they're going to get the best value anyway. So if that happened to be the Clyde, they would go there. They wouldn't snub it just because of independence reform.
I think the more the fear was about it was with Scotland might become an unstable investment, and I think
That is definitely
from a business side of the point of view, obviously you're going to invest in what you think's the best option. The thing an independent Scotland might not be as good as, say, Portsmouth or whatever, then they'll choose Portsmouth. As I say, it's only a fear, it's no guaranteed.
That's true. And then just actually speaking of business side of things, I mean really what to look at here is what has independence been for Scotland beyond it actually being for the United Kingdom. Obviously at the minute I think UK debt is sitting at somewhere near £1 trillion or something like that, and feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, and the way they're looking at it is if Scotland becomes independent, they will have to take on a proportional amount of that debt. At the minute you're looking at around 80 to 90 billion pounds worth of it, which isn't a lot considering the fact it's just about a tenth of the overall debt. But here's the next piece of the puzzle. That debt will only grow. because, well, at the minute Scotland is given £33 billion a year from Westminster as its fund. Okay, so that goes, and that will go up if it's needed to go up. So what would need to happen is Scotland need to be able to raise that capital, right? And obviously, so it can meet all of its expenditure commitments at the present, and actually have a surplus on top of that, so they can actually pay some of that debt off. But irrespective, you're never going to raise £80 billion in a year. So there will be interest on that debt, and it will grow. So it'll take you years and years and years to actually get to any sort of point where you're going to have to pay it off. And also you'll then have like massive costs in your first decade of independence, where you're having to set up your own currency, your own embassies abroad, you name it, you'll have to do it. So you're going to be borrowing heavily, so your debt again will only increase. So the only way that you can look at it really is we're either going to have severe cuts because you have to spend that much on interest for debt, so you're going to spend it elsewhere, or we're going to go like Greece and just default totally and end up bankrupt and end up just completely destroyed and a failed nation, much in the league of Somalia.
Right, I'll pass it on to Christina.
Just to agree with Craig, I know that Scotland gives less than what they receive from Westminster, so adding that with the debt that we could receive if we go independent could really go ahead and pay that back, as well as earn what we get from Westminster. How could we compete to that? How could we raise that much money that they give to us?
If you want, I've got the figures written down here if you want me to read them out.
Yeah, if you could, that'd be brilliant.
So these figures I took for both the SNP themselves and the UK government. It's for the year 09-10. The Scotland spend per person was 11,370, which was 10% higher than the UK overall, which was 10,320. So obviously, if they'd been independent, would have been spending more. Scotland's non-oil tax revenues were 42.7 billion, which works out to 8,221 per head. Their expenditure was 59.2 billion, which was 11,370 per head. So basically what it means is that Scotland got worth about 16.5 billion more spending than it contributed, which is a subsidy of £3,150 per head. The budget deficit is around 2,000 per head. So no great figures there for us. I think about me on the other side. The argument for the SNP is about obviously the oil. They say that 90% of the oil is Scottish, so that would raise it from 42.7 billion to 48.1 billion, which is obviously still less than was at the 59.2 billion. But their point they make there is that if you take that in, then that's Scotland providing 9.4% of the UK revenues, and they're only getting 9.2% of the UK spending.
I think you've lost me. I think you've lost me and every listener on your figures there. There's too many numbers.
I'm following.
Okay, you're following them. I'm vaguely following them. But
we want to take it one step at a time and comment on things then.
I want to pass on to Nicole because I know she's got a point and she's been waiting, and I didn't want to wait too long and let her forget.
It was actually on something said earlier about the submarines and everything. Britain is and has been for centuries a very imperialistic country, and I think if Scotland goes independent we can step back from all of that, take ourselves off the radar, not interfere with the Middle East, and then the need for all this defence will just decrease dramatically because no one will want to attack us in the first place.
Michael had a point for earlier. I want to let him get it before we move on.
To go back to Christina's point about that Scotland spends more than what we receive from Westminster, a report written last year from The Guardian states that the government in Westminster receive on average about 25.3 billion a year from Scotland through import and export. And if you look at Scotland's three biggest exports, which is obviously whiskey, oil, and then obviously you've got at the back of that like your iron brew and other things, you've got to take into account that if Scotland goes independent, then the other countries in the UK will have to pay import tax on all these things. So therefore we are again going to increase revenue through the import tax. And as Craig was saying about, and Andrew about the figures and that, the figures can only increase if we go independent, because if you think about it, the other countries will have to provide some form of money towards us for us to give them our export. Granted, we would have to pay money for import from like stuff from England, like your wool, your textiles and that. But then, if you look at the oil side of it, with like 98% of British oil coming from Scotland, if we, which is what the NCP were talking about doing, form a coalition with the Scandinavian countries, like your Faroe Islands and your Sweden and that, then if we collide with them, that's going to obviously grant us a bigger surface area of the water and that to cover with our oil and along with theirs.
I'll quickly kick it back to Christina, then Craig, and then I see Dee's has got a point as well, so I'm kind of ping-ponging it back, but
Just the point, sorry Nicole, who like and stuff, but like not involving ourselves in the Middle
I
East.
think she's going to take it personally.
Just
I don't think she's going
I
to
feel
cry.
bad. Involving ourselves in the Middle East, we'll have already aligned ourselves with China, so that is still a pretty messed up country to involve ourselves with.
And the Russians.
And the Russians,
Oh,
as
of course
you
they're not.
said. Like, fair enough if we don't involve ourselves with the Middle East countries, the Arab countries, it is obviously a burden that we won't have to have aligning ourselves, but to align ourselves with China and Russia, still a pretty big burden.
Just for the record, I quite like Russia. Any Russians out there are listening, I'd happily come and meet you.
Still going into dangerous turf there.
I'll kick it back to Craig.
Just to go back to Nicole's point, sorry Nicole, but you're saying that Britain has history as an imperial country. Actually, in the 1700s, Scotland had what was known as the Darien Scheme, and that was actually, it failed, but it was an attempt by the then Kingdom of Scotland to actually start colonising different bits and bobs. So it's not just Britain that has imperial tendencies, Scotland itself has tried to be
But
great
that's in the
themselves.
past, more recently.
Yeah,
Yes,
I
yes,
was a bit
yes,
saying like, reply to that. I didn't think
It
you
is
can go
very
back.
fact to look at it historically, but if we were as, we did obviously drop the Empire, and that's a whole different debate there and a whole different way of looking at it. I mean, I'm all for the Empire, not a bad thing, but that's just me. However, I mean, you can, as I was saying also, about sort of UN and that, at the minute we do have a very visible place on the world stage. We are a permanent member of the UN Security Council, and so we've got all the privileges and entitlements that would come.
This is a whole other episode of pointless stuff.
Behave yourself. But obviously there's only 5 countries that are permanently on the UN Security Council, and there's many more in the UN, and they managed to get on fine with it. So we would get on fine without a permanent place. However, if we were to then join the European Union, should we choose to do so, we would then only receive around 7 votes in the Parliament, compared to the UK's 29 at the moment, which drastically reduces our ability to actually vote and deal with matters that we care about. For example, the recent facts that the Scottish fishing fleets are being restricted and told what they can and can't fish. If with 7 votes, there's no way we're going to change that in the European Parliament. And coincidentally, if we join the European Union, we are forced to adopt the euro, which constantly underperforms and is unreliable to a major extent, and would then be at the mercy of Germany and the European Central Bank for success. And with the way the euro is going, it would be a highly risky manoeuvre to take.
Well,
So
I agree with
probably
that. I don't
lose.
want Scotland to stay in the
Before I pass on to anybody else, I'm actually want to come back to that. I think we're going to the euro. That's just not going to happen. In fact, even if they do go into the UN, I can't see them making a deal to go with the euro. But in fact, I wouldn't even go to the UN. I think it's a complete pointless organisation, and that's my views. To be honest, I think what they do is hellish much, to be honest. But no, I can't see independence, like a lot of folks say, it's never going to happen. But one thing that's definitely never going to happen is independence with a euro. It's not going to happen. There'll be no euro. I can't see it. In fact, I can see if the polls that they do, if they polled for an independent Scotland with the clause that we had to bring in a euro, the votes for no would dramatically go up. At least mine's would anyway. I can't see a euro being brought in.
The thing is, Mark, 90% of the population in Britain is against the euro. And
I think everybody's, even the people nowadays in the euro are against the euro.
that was the SNP's original plan, was to keep the British pound
I think
and
that
then
definitely have to
go
happen.
into the euro, but
I think they definitely keep it pound. I think everybody's
look for
like,
some notes
and before we pass on, I'll let you get on with the point you had at 4 days, because
we'll let Christina do it, but we'll let her
Alright,
go
okay.
first. We'll be a gentleman.
Thank you.
That's a first.
2 points.
You've not grasped the rules of this, have you? Not a very
I
start.
say that as a united kingdom together, we got into the EU without going into the euro. It was a Conservative government that managed to convince the European Union to get into the euro without joining the currency.
It's the first decent
So-
thing we've done.
So
It was your
that is
friend,
a big thing
Margaret
we did.
Thatcher.
It was Margaret Thatcher herself that got us in.
Bring her back.
thing.
That's not even facetious, bring her back. She has been a wee bit doolally now.
So, like Craig says, as like we have a bigger like influence as one on the world stage, we are taken more seriously as the UK rather than Scotland. Oh my god. The pound. If we keep the pound, we're still economically joined to Westminster, to England. The Bank of England produces the pound coin.
I'm sure we could get somewhere in Scotland.
So we're
that
not
makes
going to
it pound coin.
have complete economic independence, even though we're independent keeping the pound coin.
Well, it's
We've
one
got
bit.
3 banks that make money for us.
They make money, but we're still going to be joined.
Currently it's £1 to the pound, but that doesn't have to happen.
That's-
So I'll take a Michael Mann.
That's
That doesn't
actually-
have to be.
Can I just butt in here,
I
right?
mean, Great British Pound, Scottish Pound, it could be a thing.
Well, half
See-
of England
Well,
doesn't
the Queen's
accept
head.
Scottish money anyway.
No, but
so
this is the thing where we got to butt in that we didn't the fantastic subject of accountancy this year.
Mr. D's a specialist here, he'll tell us the rates and everything.
The Scottish notes should be accepted all over Britain, same with Northern Irish notes. The legal thing is though, it's no actual, when we come at this thing, oh you should accept that it's legal tender. It's no actual legal tender. The only legal tender in Britain is Bank of England notes. The Bank of England gives the Scottish banks and the Northern Irish banks, I think there's 6 Northern Irish banks, that gives them the authority to print their notes and be able to use them.
Well,
And-
I'm not buying to your point, but I'll just add that they give them the authority, obviously, becoming independent, then we would have.
No,
But to keep that, it's still, there's still.
but what you remember, Matt, is it's the British pound. If we come out of Britain, it's no our pound, so then the Bank of England takes it back, basically.
And that's what I mean, then becoming independent, we'd obviously have our own banks and it would be a Scottish pound.
Yes, which
Oh,
would
would they
not
have to
trade
get-
at the same currency rate.
No,
It
but
would be a totally different
But
country.
as for the currency rate, and even right now, if you were to go, let's say, to countries like Spain, it has happened before on occasion where you've went and they've actually had 2 different currency exchange rates for the English pound and the Scottish pound. And people were actually getting more for the Scottish pound than what they were for the English pound. Which sounds crazy, because obviously we kind of had 1 for 1, but if you're going into Spain, you're getting an extra couple of euros for your Scottish pound.
was
than
it,
what
was
you
it
were-
only the £5 Jack Nicklaus notes?
Well,
You get extra for them.
the Americans were buying them for about 40
right.
quid.
You put them on eBay, you're telling you, never mind exchange rates, right, I'll pass it to Christina and I'll
You
go.
tried to say that like it would be a Scottish pound, but that thought that it is from the Bank of England, that the authorities given, that is a British thing. It's not a Scottish thing. If you keep the face of it, it's not going to change that is a British pound.
But before I pass on to Michael, I'll just say, when you look at a pound, you're no fussy with what bank it comes from. If half the time the note, you look at the number on it.
It's still, you identify it as the British pound, not the Scottish pound.
I realise it comes under Great British Pound, but you've got a note and whatever's on it, if it says 20, it's 20. Obviously, they would become the Scottish pound. And the technically folk would see on it from the Bank of Scotland, but at the end of the day, they'll look at it, if it's 20, it's 20. Obviously, the exchange rate she would take to then consider going into England. Well, we need to watch the exchange rate and possibly change money. But then again, you've got things like the euro, where in several countries they share it. So, like I'm saying, they could get deals to share these money. Obviously, it becomes, oh, is it legal tender? Is it no? There's some places in England and Scotland as well you can still spend euros. So I dare say you could still spend English pounds here and Scottish pounds there. Again, I am doing the details.
The thing is, Mark, the euro's a different concept altogether. When the euro was formed, basically all these countries gave up their currency to join this one currency. Us becoming independent, you're probably going to, well, as I say, your options are the euro, which we're
I do think so, no.
all pretty unanimous in that one.
Yeah.
British pound is another option, but it's still going to be controlled by the Bank of England. An example I could give you is Jamaica. Because Jamaica had financial problems, they've took on the US dollar. but it's a bit crazy to maybe suggest that Jamaica has any say in what happens in the Treasury in America.
I think that's two different cases. I mean, Scotland and England, I mean, the sizes, the population and the income and whatever are relatively similar. When you talk about Jamaica, a wee country, and America, that's a major difference.
Well, I think what you got to remember now is we are a wee country.
I'll accept that, but in relation to England, we're no that wee. If you see what I mean. The difference between England and Scotland is no as significant as the difference between Jamaica and America, is what I'm getting at.
But the point I was making is, with the countries wise, with Scotland, if Scotland were to take the British pound, Scotland would have no say.
No, they wouldn't have a say
in the Bank of
England.
England. And the thing is, the Bank of England would then probably say, well, we're giving you our money, we want a say in your monetary policy.
I would imagine so, and again, I'm adding the policies that SNP have got for this, because
the other example for this is like with the euro, is what happened with Greece and Portugal. Through the bailout and all that, it's the eurozone that now controls Portugal and Greece.
I think we're all whether we're in for independence or not, I think we're all unanimous against the euro. I didn't check, but I don't think there's anybody here that's for the euro. Anyway, I'll pass it on to Michael because he had a point before, and I'll bring it back to Christina.
To go back to the point Craig made about if an independent Scotland was to join the European Union, then we would have to take on the euro. That's not necessarily the case.
No,
because if you look
it's the case.
Because if you look at Denmark are a European Union country, but they still have the Danish kroner in circulation, and Sweden, along with.
There's slight differences. They're not exactly in it. They're just part of the part of the trade market agreement. They're not exactly a European Union country. I was looking at this today. They're not. Sweden is, but I think also Denmark was one of the founding countries, so they would be exempt from that anyway. So when it all came in, they would just might be a privilege they retained to then say we want to keep our own currency. But at the minute, policy stands that any new country that joins the European Union has to take the euro, whether you like it or not, and regardless of what any other country's done.
I think with the state of the euro, I think that they're going to have to rethink that, to be honest. I think, like you say, I think
the
it's got to be
reason for them doing
rethought.
it is to try and get more folk to join the euro, to help the euro out, because obviously the more people join in the euro, the more bailout funds become available, because everybody has to put money towards the bailout fund. That's why they'll be trying to get more folk to do it.
Like we say, Scotland becoming independent does not necessarily mean they have to join the UN. I mean, all that could be rethought, and obviously they'll have deals they'll have to make. If they join the UN, I mean, you didn't just, well, technically you do just sign a bit of paper, but there is negotiations that go on and stuff like that. They just didn't decide, oh, we'll be in the UN, we'll just do everything they say. Personally, like I've already said, the UN pointless in my opinion. I wouldn't join, but again, I'm not the King of Scotland as I should be. And I'll put Christina on the spot.
It was just to do with the Jamaican and American reference. Like, I'm scared that if we do become independent, it is going to be like that. We are going to become this small country with no credibility to our name. Like, the UK, like I say, has done so much for us, has proved ourselves to be an elite nation. What are we going to be when we split up from that? We are going to be small Jamaica that's got like nothing to their name compared to massive America.
But why do we need a large name? I'd
It's
rather
just-
sit back a bit and just work
Much
on
rather
getting
have
ourselves back to
better
normal.
financial history, really, because that's what we're based on. I mean, we would get, the markets wouldn't give us as good interest rate as Britain has at the moment. We'd be less likely to actually let us borrow money because we don't have the independent financial history at the back. We pretty much have a bad credit rating because we don't have one. In the past 300 odd years, whereas we've not had any financial history of our own.
Is there any, can I just, sorry before I interrupt, but is there anywhere that's really got a good credit rating? I think everybody, I'm not quite wrap my head around the whole debt thing.
Everyone
Because
seems to be in debt.
everybody's in debt, but who we're in debt? Who we're in debt to? If you see what I mean. If everybody's in debt, then we're just in debt to each other. We just write it off. Pretty much. I mean, because if we're due America, if we're in debt to America 300 billion or something, and they're in debt to somewhere else for 200 billion, and the other place is in debt to us for whatever. I mean, if everybody's in debt, Where's all the debt coming?
See-
If you see why I'm not getting my head around it.
Some countries do have a surplus, so like China, Australia, and that. So like, if you then cut all the debt, they've then lost money. So it's one reason I'm that.
I think the point to be made here now is for debt-wise, to kind of remember with cast your mind back to a few years ago when a lot of African countries were due Britain a lot of money, and Britain decided, well,
We'll just
we'll
write
help
that
you out and we'll write off this debt. Now, obviously, that's money that we've given, we've not gotten back. So that's a contributing factor to the debt. Obviously, not the whole amount of debt, but
Just joinifying.
No, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I had to get my point across about no understanding where all the debt circle of debt come from, if you see what I mean. And I honestly can't quite grasp my head around where the debt is. If everybody's in debt, I do understand how everybody's in debt.
I think we're due to the boy that lives on the moon.
I think so. I mean, the way I see it, we're in debt to somebody, somebody's in debt to somebody else is in debt to us, and we're again in debt to somebody else. It's a big circle of debt if you see where I'm coming from. And I'll let you get to your point. I do apologise.
One thing I would point out before we go any further is that when the Conservatives left government last time, Britain had no debt whatsoever. Just to be pointing news on over the next bill in a completely different relation. But obviously we're all agreeing that economically the world is in a pretty bad place at the minute. And I mean, against this sort of economic backdrop, is it really wise to leave the United Kingdom? I mean, at the present, we enjoy quite a bit of security as being part of the United Kingdom. We have the backing of the country should we need it. You only look at the bailout of the banks, so that the UK government was there to step in and rescue the banks and bail us out, an obligation it would not need to have nor fulfil if we were independent. Nor would any other country worldwide, unless we say we society, then we are part of the European Union, where we would then get the bailout fund there. So we need to join up to other things to get this money to give us out. And obviously, one of the SNP's main claims is that we will have oil, money from oil. I would point out that oil is finite, definitely not infinite, and there's no guarantee that it will be as great a source of income as the oil, because they will have to competitively price against major oil producing countries. In the Middle East, for example, to really competitively price here, which could hurt profits instead of help them. And in essence, it would be a pretty much unparalleled and unmitigated disaster to break away from the United Kingdom. Yes, if we had the financial capability and the world's finances were a lot better, then yes, independence would be totally possible. And you then would look at the current push on lessening our reliance on fossil fuel and the growing renewable energy sector, which I would point out isn't restricted to certain areas where oil is, because you're not exactly going to drill in your backyard and find oil. The Middle East exports that, but you could quite easily put a solar panel on your roof or a small wind turbine if you live in a windy place and generate your own electricity. So extrapolate that to the country-wide, and you can then get many countries producing a lot of their own energy and not relying on imports, which again would hurt a country's finances based on energy exports. So you're going to really get yourself screwed over with that.
Right, well, before I pass it over to Michael, I think I've mentioned this in many weeks before, that I think the oil argument doesn't bother me. I think that we should just forget the oil, because oil is basically gone. There's no a lot left, to be honest.
It's going to run out in 40 years.
Is it 40? Is it?
40.
Anyway, I've mentioned on many weeks before that all this money that I claim we're wasting should not be on going to the UN or Europe or wherever and doing all these talks about, what's your plans for renewable energy? No. Let's get the money now and not spend it on all that junk. Let's spend it on actually getting renewable energy. I mean, the other day when the other month where it was windy and it actually broke a wind turbine. I mean, who's putting up wind turbines and doing research into it thinking, I wonder if it gets windy, is this going to break?
There's a slight difference between normal operating conditions for a wind turbine and being subjected to hurricane force winds.
Well, that's the thing. The
just
50 miles an hour.
Yep, at 50 miles an hour, I think that's a reasonable.
Well, I think you should expect it for it to go a wee bit more than.
If anything, the windier it gets, I would expect more energy to be provided by this wind turbine. But regardless, I think more money that we are wasting on boats has to go into green and renewable energy.
Well,
No, hold on, let me finish, because I will forget this point. But aye, renewable energy, I mean, we've got stuff like wind. I mean, Scotland's not known for its sunny weather, so solar panels, not really the way to go, but we've got wind and we've got all the seas are perfect trying been in them. If we get rid of that, we'll make water and space and
We've
whatever.
already got a lot of hydropowers.
Yep, we need more of this. We need more of the money spent on wind turbines and stuff like this. Solar panels as well. I mean, we walked to Kirkcaldy for the marathon thing that we're still training for, by the way. Just a shout out for that.
Still working it in there, Mark?
Yep, I have to work out it. And we walked past the house with solar panels, and I mean, it stands out because basically it's not a common thing, and in this day and age, 2012, it needs to be like renewable energy. It shouldn't stand out. It needs to be commonplace for things. I mean, we're going on to new electric cars. They're coming in. They're starting in America. They'll be coming in here too.
There's one
I can Renault have got one.
electric
There's minis as well.
down in England. There's just one.
One. Is that it? Really? There's
Can't
one.
remember where it is.
Manchester.
Really? Right. Well, they've got one. Well, you can charge it one car in one place in England. But like I say, electric cars are coming. They're going to be here because there's no alternative. Really, that's how it has to go. And it needs to become more commonplace. Money has to be spent on that. Never mind this other stuff. For defence budget and whatever. What we got to defend against if we've no lights? To be honest, and if we've no power, what are they going to do? What are they going to blow up? They can't blow up a power plant. We've got no power. If you see how I mean. Definitely, the money has to go into renewable energy, and I can't stand seeing the politicians, all the red tape. I understand it has to be done, but I just can't stand it. I think really they're taking it to 5 council. I'll find out how you blame.
No sass, so they're not no, for them.
No sass. 5 council and piss about with all this. Go on to Europe and let's put plans for 2016. We'll have a plan ready by 2016 to put in place for 2020. No, this is 2012. We need it now. The solar panels, obviously, I'm not expecting to wake up and they'll be everywhere, but I'm expecting them to make a start and get it started doing it. I'll pass on to you, Andrew, and we'll kind of circulate the room.
Well, about renewable energy, the company Citigroup, they've done research into it, and they reckon that our renewable energy target, well, the S&P's renewable energy target, is unlikely to be met. They also say it could cause an increase of £875 in bills per household over a year. This was also backed with the Scottish Chamber of Commerce, who said that bills may double with renewable energy. The other problem comes in as well, that without any real backup to the renewable energy, if you've had the unluckiest year of no sun and no wind, unlikely, but where are you going to get your power from? You're going to have to import it, which is more money spent on importing.
Right, before I pass it on, Christine, and I'm going to just go in a clockwise direction. I say costing more for electricity. The way I see it going anyway, the way I hope that they go for it is that folk are they go into build their new houses and retrofitting their old houses. That everybody they basically become self-sufficient. If you see what I mean, instead of relying on a national grid. I realise that has to be there for backup, but the way I hope it goes anyway is that folk start getting solar panels or whatever. Obviously, not the best thing when obviously it's no sunny, but folks start obviously I'm not sure what I'm thinking, but I'm never really sure what I'm thinking.
If you've no idea what you're thinking.
I know exactly, but I kind of see the bills doubling. If anything, when folk start getting solar panels, the kind of argument has to be, obviously at first there's an upfront cost to get the things installed and all that, but then you're reducing your bills because you're obviously producing your own energy. So they'll have to obviously calculate when the cost to profit ratio comes, because obviously at first you've got an upfront cost, but then how long is it till you're breaking even and going forward? That has to be calculated.
Just got to say across just the kind of that for you everyone else, right?
Mm-hmm.
At the minute, most of your energy suppliers are based on fossil fuel. If they see the money moving towards renewable energy, they will shift their focus there and they'll go, instead of you having to go through all the hassle of retrofitting your house or paying X, Y and Z to get all the stuff installed, we'll make all the energy and we'll sell you it. So you'll still have the same system developing. Yes, some people will make their own electricity, make their own energy, but the best you can go, you just have a transition in the energy market from fossil fuel based to renewable energy based, and then you still have your companies there, they'll still be selling electricity, so that's where your increase in bills will come from, not because people are generating their own, but because your big companies are still there, they're still generating and they're still selling, and they're setting up their payments.
Before I pass on to Christina, I'll say I hope Scotland do become independent, that they get rid of these energy companies that do all this, and the government actually take it and it becomes a public thing. Because if we're creating energy by solar panels and whatever, then the profits of this shouldn't be going to companies and CEOs getting billions and whatever and things. The money we're built, I mean, basically when your bill doubles, fair enough, the energy prices they've gone up. I'm giving you, I'll accept that. But when your E.ON and all this are coming at the end of the year and going, well, we've made 3 billion in profits, in pure profit. That's no, didn't quote on that number because I'm not sure, but the profits of these E.ONs and Scottish Power, they're into the profits anyway. They're not making a loss, put it that way. And their executives and whatever, they're driving big fancy cars for making all this money, which is fair enough because they're doing all the work, whatever important, and digging holes in the ground, and fair enough. But if we're going to use renewable energy, then it has to become, I don't know what to say, a socialist type thing, but it has to be a public thing.
Like a non-profit.
Exactly. I mean, a company shouldn't be profiting for this. If everybody in the street is, or whatever, or in your city, whatever, or even, I dare say, leave it to Fife Council, but if everybody in Fife is putting in to this electricity fund, if you see where I'm going with it,
Yeah,
they're all doing solar panels, then Fife Council or they're controlling or whatever, they're not making a profit for it. Like if somebody has not made, like if somebody's not generated enough energy or whatever, they're obviously paying for more. If somebody's generated too much, they'll put it back into the grid and get money for it, I suppose. But it should be a kind of government-owned thing. It shouldn't be, at least, again, they kind of have got policies on this, but that's the way I do it, because it's a fair way to do it, and it's a way that the bills shouldn't, theoretically, bills should be at zero, really, if you're there enough to sustain. And some people go crazy with it, because you will get dafties. They go daft and put solar panels everywhere. They basically have a back garden of solar panels. Obviously, will start to make money because they're generating more than they use. Maybe not in Scotland, mind you, but. And I'll let Christina's desperate to bring up about 5 points, but I've kept her waiting, so we'll let her go.
It's just this one point, like, this is neither against nor for, but solar panel energy, if you earn more than you need, it goes back into the economy and it goes back into the government, and it could power more people and lessen bills.
Yeah, well that's what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping that it does do that and it doesn't go to, like Craig was speculating, an energy company or something that take control of it all and gain profits. But, and I'm going to go clockwise, so Nicole, if you got anything, did you have anything to bring up?
No, I don't actually.
You happy? Right, sorry Michael, I'll go straight to you.
Right, from Andrew's point from about 5 or 10 minutes
I do apologise, and I do see people who mention they want to speak, and then somebody will say something that I completely disagree with, and I'm like, I'm going to mention something before that, and then I see somebody else's hand, so I do apologise, Michael, but we'll be here.
With regards to Andrew's point about 5-10 minutes ago regarding that if like Scotland goes to renewable energy, where will their backup be? Scotland have up to about 50 years worth of coal still in our mines.
Maggie.
So Alex Salmond has already said that if needed for a backup he would reopen the mines, which is quite handy if you look at your point earlier about us possibly colliding with Russia. A lot of Russian energy is still provided by fossil fuels.
I wish I could do a Russian accent so much.
It's still provided with your fuels like your coal, and then you've also got like your other sources of fossil fuels. But that's also going to generate more jobs because there's going to need people to go back under the mine. And with the health and safety improvements we've made over the years,
well, the health and safety department will have red tape everywhere, Michael. No parrots doing there, you'll need about 4 fucking thermometers and bloody sensors going off, and if one beeps you're not allowed doing there for 6 years, and then that's it. And if you take a bird and it
Is
dies...
that really true though, considering the accidents in Chile and the accidents in Wales?
And you think what the regulations in Chile are like. I mean,
in Wales?
Oh, they could have had in the kind of Wales.
The one in Wales was actually, what caused that was they didn't support their secondary shoot with.
And what if that happens to you?
Well, I mean,
With old
you
mines,
do see
old mines.
you do see things like that with health and safety. In fact, we mentioned it the other week, or I think it was after the podcast, but the guys working on the rail bridge, one of them fell off and died, and you think, how could that happen with health and safety? But I mean, it turns out that it was obviously accidental, but it was due to the guys in fault, pretty much.
Well, as student engineer, most accidents caused are due to slips, trips and falls, basically carelessness.
Well, no, this one was he was in an area that he shouldn't have been. So at the end of the day, I mean, obviously, I'm not having nothing against the guy. It was a hellish thing, obviously accidental, but you can't blame health and safety at the end of the day when you're in an area that you shouldn't be. You can't say, well, where was the health and safety in that?
I think the problem comes is a lot of folk feel that there's too much health and safety rules.
Well, definitely. And if you're ever in Sainsbury's at night shift, you'll realise that every single one of them is disregarded.
Get your bouncy vodka bottles.
There's like again with the Wales, Chile, like how could we be sure that the mines are that safe? I mean, Metal Hill, for example, the mines didn't get closed right, so now they're caving in at the Metal Hill grounds, and that's all cornered off just because of that, and it looks hideous.
I think the Metal Hill area in general is just
Metal Hill grabbing a lot of coal for you guys, so...
One good thing for Metal
But
Hill.
like I said, health and safety, how could we be sure with the recent comes up that it's going to be safe?
Nothing's ever perfect, but I mean,
the mines are old, and we haven't looked at them in a long time.
Well, I would imagine, obviously, again, the expert in this, but they're not just going to send folk right down. They would do all these scans. They'll probably have 3 weeks. Inspectors coming out and dusting off the weeds and whatever. And can we go down there? Is it alright? Is it alright, Stevie? Can you ask Steve if he's got the paperwork for last week? Let's say, was it some kind of there? I don't reckon, but I'm assuming they're not just going to send about like, hey Jim, going to go down that mine and see what you can find for us. It's going to be, again, with Fife Council, you never know. They might just send somebody for one of the back rooms and just like go see if you can find us some coal and metal, would you? It could happen. You can with Fife Council.
Mark, we've got a phone call from Fife Council the morning asking you to do that.
I would be absolutely not surprised. They're useless. Again, if you are at Fife Council, please phone us, call us. We're quite happy to insult you. Craig's been waiting desperately for a point, I'm sure he has.
First off, it would cost a considerable amount of money to bring the mines back up to operational standard, so that would further increase debt.
Many weeks with 5
Secondly, coal is one of the messiest fossil fuels available to us, and considering the SNP's push towards renewable, clean, green energy, I hardly think they would resort to the messiest form of fossil fuel available in order to actually produce energy. I'm not going to book any interruptions on this, Henderson, so you're just going to need to shut up and vote on for the right. Sorry, right.
Oh, boats! Boats! I'm sorry, but boats!
Anyway, on an economic related point, the FTSE 100 closed up today by 0.68%, so it's an increase, which is good. But I mean, taking it away from the economics here, because we can actually say we can debate economy all night, we can debate fossil fuel over renewable energy, we can debate where everything's going with that, but at the end of the day, what is this drive for independence? The way I see it, really, it's just Alex Salmon's own personal vendetta. I mean, as far as I say, he's narcissistic and he's power hungry. I mean, he left the party when they weren't doing well, came back when they started doing well, then reassumed leadership, and so he's quite power in that sense. So, should we really end up playing Russian roulette with the country's future just to satisfy his ambitions? And, you know, obviously, just on again, the economy, but as I said earlier about the extreme cuts, are we going to throw ourselves to the wolves and what could happen to us and suffer extreme cuts for a couple of generations, so it will be our grandchildren or great-grandchildren even further in line that see any form of benefit, whatever small that may be, from an independent Scotland? You know, are we willing to put ourselves through that sort of pain just so, like, sort of 100 years down the line, 150, 200 years down the line, some form of benefit is actually coming out of this?
I'm going to stop your crazy rambling there.
It's not crazy rambling, it's perfectly realised.
I'm going to stop you there to just correct you slightly. I'll give you, first one to admit, Alex Salmond is not my favourite character, but at the end of the day, it's not the Alex Salmond party, it's SNP, it's not just him. He is the leader of the party, admittedly, but there's many folk that follow him, there's many folk that are for it. it's not just Alex Salmond. I'll admit I think he's power hungry, but I think independence it's no Alex Salmond's idea. He didn't come up with it. There's a lot of folk for it. You can't say it's just Alex Salmond's the only one who wants this. And he's got a whole party. In fact, he's got a whole party that's got a majority, as I've said before, in a system that's not designed for a majority. Obviously, I'm not insinuating everybody that voted for him or everybody that likes SNP are for independence. Clearly, no. There's folk no for independence. That's right to think that way. It's wrong, but that's your right. Again, power hungry myself and quite narcissistic. But Alex Salmond, not my favourite person, but I can't listen to saying that it's all about him. It's no, it's got to help.
If we're going to do it, then we need someone like him to actually. He's got the drive to do it.
I'm not suggesting that we should replace him, although his choice in McCaskill as Justice Minister has been brought up several times in this, and I think.
But I think that's a starting offence itself.
Yeah, I do. I'm not happy about McCaskill, but that's personal vendetta, really.
McCaskill's a good guy.
McCaskill, sorry, we can't continue here. In fact, I think Michael, for that you're never allowed back on the podcast for saying McCaskill is an alright guy. In fact, for saying McCaskill is a guy is just inappropriate. McCaskill he's not even human. He's just. He's basically.
How well Alex Salmond will do with running an independent Scotland if he manages to appoint McCaskill as Justice Secretary
I think,
and maintains him in his position after his many failings.
I think with several letters from me, McCaskill will be swiftly appointed to the moon.
He's the guy in the moon that's all the money.
Probably McCaskill's got all this money. He's probably gained all this money for letting folk out of prison. Get it? McCaskill, there's no debate McCaskill is useless apart from Michael, who clearly has done something and has been set free by McCaskill, and that's why you think he's an alright guy.
I just think it's funny when you rant on about him. That's something you to say.
I'm aware that McCaskill, has to go. I had a point before. What was I talking about? Scotland becoming independent till like we've seen it getting an advert. Sorry about that.
What was the advert for?
It was for me. So they've sneaked an advert into the past.
We'll wait to hear. Did we get paid for that?
No, we absolutely did not. In fact,
Wait, sue them.
we will. I want adverts for Toblerones, but I can't get improve it. It's not something I it's a yes shampoo, I'll give you that. But no, that specific brand. There are others available, so don't take that as an advert.
I think due to advertisement policies now we hate to advertise more shampoo.
But I think we'll have to have a 3-week board meeting about that. And we'll have to have a board first.
Come on, what days will we these other companies, they'll hear a board meeting in some place like Barbados.
And we'll be bored.
Paid for by the taxpayer.
Sorry, I'm not going to rattle on it. I'm watching the time as well because I'm aware, Nicole, you are up early in the morning. Half past 6 o'clock. So I didn't want to keep you any longer than you necessarily want to be.
That's fine.
So just at any point feel free to tell me to shut up and leave.
That's a rare privilege, Nicole. Very rare privilege.
Because if anybody else done it, I would surely get up and hit them with a snow shovel. Especially Craig. In fact, I'd draw a bow on it and then smack him with it. But back to my point before, which I was about to get to, and then the Pantene Pro V wife interrupted. She's clearly not got the memo about no interrupting. Actually, they gave me quite a hell of a fright anyway. There's something next to the speaker.
I got shocked I saw. Well, the first thing I thought was, Mark, your voice kind of changed.
I'm sure at some point somebody thought, Mark's got a new ringtone.
That was my thought.
Was that your thought?
I think I listened to meeting you just hold it.
Because I did actually accidentally hit the speaker cable on the board and I thought, was that me? And I realised, wait, we're not really doing an advert for Pantene here, are we? It must be the computer. Which it was. Just to check that we're still recording alright, and we do seem to be. I've not broke anything.
No, we're not going to start again, are we?
No, please no. That point before. I remember what it was. You were saying coal being very reformy, whatever. Obviously, as you see folk that come up to the mines, they look black. even the folk that won't be black.
That's racist, I'm getting the FA on you.
That's alright, you can get the FA, you can get the DEA, you can get the fucking
Michael, have you ever listened to this show before?
I mean,
I'll bet.
Arcad's basically in the cupboard crying at this moment. But no, my point is, it is very reform, and we're going to green and healthy and trees, solar panels and whatever.
Use trees energy.
I do think the plan is to bring back coal, unless it's completely necessary. I think it is, as you say, a backup. They're the plans. Well, again, I'll examine that. I need to speak to him in person. I'm going to get him on one week, really. I scalp him. What's going on?
Imagine if he came.
I doubt that if he's listening to me. In fact, I hope he brings my casco. He's certainly not leaving. But no, I don't think his plan is, we'll start digging up coal for our energy. No, I think definitely it has to go forward as the solar panel, renewable pish, all this garbage that you hear from eco fannies. Sorry, I'm being a wee bit insulting, but hold on. The coal and whatever, it's a backup. What he's saying is, he's not saying, we're going to use this. Well, worst case scenario, it's still there. So the folk of Scotland, if we've not got solar panels, or God forbid it's no windy for 1 week, I mean, we'll be ecstatic, isn't it windy? Oh wait, we're powered by wind. But if that does happen, then we've got a backup there. We're not going to be, it's no windy this week, I better turn that microwave off, sort of thing. There is a backup, there is something there. It's not just complete darkness if it's no windy, or it's no sunny, or there's no water turbo in the thing. I'll let Michael go first because he did mention, and then I'll pass it to Craig, and then I'll probably die of hunger because I'm not eating all day. And Christina wants to watch me die of hunger. And Chloe Henderson is not even on this show really, but we'll let her get a point as well. Doesn't care about politics, I think she just wants to hit Craig. Anyway, sorry Michael, I've kept you waiting, and tonight, Kat, you were going to be...
Knock it back to what Craig was saying about like the narcissism of examining it just being like his like crazy ideas. The last government poll online says that 53% of the Scottish population that voted on that poll are for independence. Now, if that was just one man's idea, surely there would be no one else bar him that wanted independence.
It depends what polls you
And
look
that's
at. Like,
it was Hitler's idea, and Mr. Germany went along with it until the bitter end and thought it would be a good idea.
I don't think you can compare independence with Hitler.
No, I'm just saying it's the same thing. You can, when an idea starts, I mean, take Russia for example. It does with Russia, Bolshevik revolution.
If you
Lenin,
could just make sure you speak every minute.
Lenin walked in. He was in exile. He walked in, took control of the situation, and melded it to his idea. The way Russia turned out was Lenin's idea, one man. So at the end, and then the country just went along with it, and then government reports, how accurate really are they? They are going to have a major amount of spin put on them. And when you look at the polls anyway, there's always a good variance between them. So you've got to sort of look at all of them, and then go somewhere in the middle and you'll find out roughly where things are. So I wouldn't know exactly what the SNP says, I wouldn't know exactly what Westminster says either. As a guide exactly what the people
No, you want as an independent sort of
Exactly.
really.
The vast majority of
hold on,
polls...
before I pass it, I think Christina does want to say something, but again, sorry.
It's a totally different.
Really, well, I just want to answer back to that. Mr. Dees is going crazy here. He wants to...
I've only got one sentence to say.
His point is, I want to see Mark die of hunger. But no, I think when you're saying one man, one idea, that's fair enough if it's like that. And I mean, Hitler didn't really take a referendum. I mean, this has all been done legally by first getting into power. I didn't actually think he did. I'm assuming Hitler didn't send out a wee post-it note to everybody.
Hitler
went a step better and wrote a book and told the whole of Europe what he was going to do, and the whole of Europe laughed at him, and then he went out and did it, and they were all laughing.
But he got the whole of Germany's support before he turned into what he was.
Yeah,
He also had the Anschluss, which was referendum.
but what I'm getting at is, the things that Hitler did, they were clearly not legitimate. When he went to go and kill a load of folk, I mean,
that wasn't legitimate, but what he did before was legitimate.
Yeah, well, that's fine. When he was,
But this is what you can see as Alex Salmon's doing, gaining.
No, I think
it's going to
That'll be the first Reich's
I was just saying.
I think that's completely
Nationalism.
wrong.
I'm just saying when people pick up the similarities.
I see where you're getting it, but I think it's completely ordered to think of that. Wait, hold on. No, I do think it is because that's one thing to do that, but when you're having a referendum for independence, I think it's a wee bit of a push to assume that later on he's going to start wanting to kill English.
Nobody's
I think
ever said
he's wanting to
that.
become independent. No, kill a lot of English people.
Nobody's ever said that. When folk were comparing them to Hitler, what their meaning was when Hitler started out. Hitler didn't first start out and then go, oh, I'm going to kill 6 million Jews, right?
Well, at that point he was fine then. I'm accepting that.
Hitler basically, what he did was, he wrote his book and he told Europe what he was going to do. He told Europe that I'm going to bring back, like say, we'll demilitarise the Rhineland, not demilitarise the
Yes,
Rhineland,
yes,
that's
yeah.
what, well,
Yes.
but,
You did.
You're right.
well that's, he wanted to remilitarise it, he wanted to take it back off, that's what I'm saying.
D-mill.
Aye, that's what I meant, but
I've seen double D's, what's happening?
yeah, I'm here all week. But aye, and he basically told what his politics were, and people didn't believe him, they went out and done that, right, and that's what we're kind of saying is,
So
Salmon's a bit-
scared that he's going to do.
Yeah, no, but like you
Well-
said, he said what he was going to do and folk didn't believe him, but that can't happen here, because he's saying he wants to become independent, but he can't do it, with folk saying, oh you can't do it. If you see where
when I
I'm
say
getting
folk didn't believe him, the Germans, by the way, a massive amount of the Germans backed him, because they seen this guy come up, I think we've got a Hitler debate now.
I think so.
Came up with new ideas,
Aye.
came up with
Yeah.
like,
Which is
And
fine, but
no, but behind
I'm
them.
assuming the majority in
Right.
Germany didn't get behind them when they decided
No.
he was going to kill folk.
Aye, but then by that stage, after they backed him all the way, got behind him, they done what he want, by that stage it was too late and they realised, oh shit, this boy's a fruitcake.
There's nobody else.
And then he done
to
stuff, and then they couldn't get, like say, one of the main problems actually about the Second World War and things like that was that the Germans, when they were in the army, the navy, well, whatever, they didn't swear oath to Germany.
It was the Hitler.
It was to Hitler himself, so that way they couldn't
Yeah.
back out. They'd swore oath to Germany and say, well, as Germans, I think what you're doing wrong. They'd swore oath to him.
Yeah, well, I think that's obviously the key difference. When if the vote comes back for yes for independence, then Alex Salmond is obviously not the King of Scotland, and the people of Scotland aren't answering to Alex Salmond. It's to the Scottish Government, which at this present time happens to be Alex Salmond, but it's not going to change, so you're not allowed to vote and whatever.
How do you
They'll
ken
still
that?
be-
How do you ken that Salmond, right? Let's just throw it in
His
there.
name's actually
That,
Von
aye, that
Salmond,
Salmond
happens
is
to
going
be.
to become, right, he's going to get the vote for independence and that. You vote for me. I'm in charge now. We're going to have a dictatorship.
Yeah, it won't happen.
Well,
I
how do you
say
think?
so.
Folks said that about Hitler.
Because before, England obviously have to technically sign off on it and whatever, and the people of Scotland have to vote yes for independence. But when he puts the bill across, if the bill that he puts across says that if they become independent, it's him in charge, like him named, and no the government and the First Minister of Scotland that are in charge. If it's personally him named, that bill will not go through. It won't get a vote for yes. If you see the way I'm thinking about it.
I'm just saying,
I
like,
don't agree with you.
Because when the bill goes through, it won't be Alex Salmond, leader of Scotland. It will be
The SNP.
it'll be the First Minister and the Scottish Government. That will be in the policy that rule Scotland. It will be the First Minister and the Scottish Government. It won't be Alex Salmond and the SNP because you can't declare
No.
that.
It will
One thing I
be.
would say though is, once you get in power, once you're independent, there's nothing to stop you from changing it.
Aye.
You know, you could easily say, by the way, it will be an elected government, it will be this, that, the next thing, and then as soon as you get independent, screw that, rip it up, that's Harry man. We're out in country, go deal with like, screw the rest of it.
Ah, but,
And there's nothing to stop you
no,
doing it.
There's
Yeah,
a lot of
but
things.
they won't
Because
do that either.
you see the dictatorships that are brought down, and like what was it, Egypt and whatever. When
Just Egypt.
that's one case where the dictators are brought down by the folk. We all are. What's the word again? It's democracy, right? We all get a vote.
the UK is a democracy.
Aye.
That's what I mean. It's
God.
all democratic. So if he does get any power, if it does become independent, and he suddenly says, "Oh, by the way, we're not doing voting anymore," it's everybody in Scotland's not going to go, "Oh, well, that's fine, then we'll not take action." Everybody in Scotland's going to go fucking nuts.
Right, well,
And it's not going to be acceptable. It won't happen.
can I
It's
just
just
throw
not going to
something
happen.
out here, right? It's a point I've already said, right? But what's the meaning of democracy, right? If, like, say, the majority of people vote for something, they should get it.
Yep.
Right?
Majority wins.
So I'm going to go back to my previous point of the majority of people voted for the Scottish referendum to be 2012, 2013. Then the SNP turned around and says, no, we're not having it and we're going to have it 2014. Right, so where's your...
I can't.
It's a point to be made. I'm not saying for definite that Salmon's going to come in and go, right, I'm in charge now.
That's
What I
I'm
say
trying to
goes.
say.
I'm never trying to say that.
One person at a time, please.
The point is there to be made, right? When you say he's like a bit like Hitler, folk go, oh, he's not going to kill 6 million Jews, right?
Well, that's
That's
clearly
just been
assumption.
ridiculous.
Well, that's clearly the Hitler assumption. If you say something's like Hitler, you
No,
didn't
it's
think that
Oh,
is.
maybe
If you say to somebody, oh, he's like Hitler, they didn't think, oh, well, he's got a moustache. They think, oh, he's got start killing folk.
No,
Educated people realise that.
No.
But we did useful subjects at one.
I mean, he might not murder 6 million Jews. He might murder 6 million tea cakes, Tunnock's tea cakes, however, that's a different story entirely.
Well, that's a personal attack on the man. I think that's a wee bit out of order. Anyway, I want.
And you've not been attacking him, I think.
Well, McCaskill deserves to be attacked, but I think the size of the guy's belly is nothing to do with us becoming independent. In fact, no, never mind, I'm not going to go there. Christina!
I'm just trying to back up the point that when people, like Andrew says, when people say that he's like Hitler, it doesn't automatically think
But
he's going to do that. It's just the situations are similar. They back this person to the end, and then I'm not going to say that, but there could be the extreme situation where he messes up the economy, no kill 6 million people. It's just a parallel. It's like he's going to mess up the country.
right,
could be
before I
associates.
let Nicole rage at you for taking that pointless
I just
subject
think
like this.
that when people say he's like Hitler, it's not.
Aye, I think fair enough. If you've taken history and you realise about what Hitler did and you see all the progress, but I think you walk up to an average guy in the street and you go, "What do you associate with Hitler?" The thing killing folk.
Guys, the first reaction would be Holocaust.
Yeah, that's what folk associate with Hitler. And I understand that he wasn't always like that, and he did good things.
the other point that we made, he was a war hero as well.
No, he wasn't actually, that's been revoked.
Well, I would fucking hope
He
so.
was though.
Aye, but
Wasn't it?
They say that they found that was actually a lie after. He wasn't actually, didn't do exactly what he said he did. And I can't remember the exact story, but
Well, it's been corrected.
But even
Still
take
was in
that,
that.
even take that out of the equation, right? As much as opposite sides for us, he was a guy that fought during the First World War. So,
Well, it was-
therefore, in a way, he is
Aye.
a bit of a hero.
Well,
Even though if it isn't true that he saved his commander or whatever.
it's a bit. It was a fucking whack job anyway. He wanted to kill folk. But anyway, no, that I
I
didn't.
mean, just the situations at a certain point in Germany's history are the same.
Yeah, right. And I'll apply pass on to Nicole because she's ready to smash some.
No, no.
Oh, I wish she
That was
was.
just a wee cheeky comment that slipped out.
I liked
The
it.
way I look at it is, if a country backs their leader, I don't think people should automatically think, oh hey, something's going to go wrong here. And if it trashes the economy, how much more trash can it actually get?
Well,
I
it can
think
get
vote
worse,
for-
it can get
vote for
worse.
independence
Worse.
and let's get some excitement.
One thing to always remember, it can always get worse.
Well, according to Labour, things can only get better.
No, and that, this goes for anything in life, no matter what you're doing. Even cooking a pizza, it can always get worse, eh, Mark?
Yeah, it can, because if you've seen my pizza burn, there's nothing in comparison to Craig's chips that are
Aye.
half wrapped and half frozen. But what,
I imagine.
anyway,
Can I bring us back onto the topic of Scotland here?
I thought we were going to talk about pizzas now. I was getting extremely hungry.
Right, Mussolini.
No.
Is that the pasta?
Just a minute back, I mean, you're talking about the new millennium and that, right? This
This is a long way back.
I know, I like to put it back. But people are actually like missing a lot of opportunities with new electricity. Kind of basically like you've got solar, you've got wind, you actually got aware of that.
That's what I mean, that we're wasting money on it.
No, I mean like you're
Water.
wasting, you're missing like most stuff that, what?
Water.
Yeah, I mean, it's part of the genetic sort of wide vitality stuff. I mean, like, we've talked about electric cars earlier. There's a new racing car coming in. What they're doing is build, either modify an existing track or build a special track for it, and they're actually putting small conductors or whatever it is in the track. You know, there's nothing to stop you doing that. If you want to revamp the entire infrastructure of the roads, you can do that. There's nothing to stop you basically building new streets now. Basically,
I mean, it's cheap.
Exactly. Well, it's obviously you need the money to do it. You do it a bit at a time, but if you want to bring it in and
Aye.
remove the fossil
Can I
fuels,
just put it that it has taken it's going to take 5 council,
Yes,
simply
yes,
2
yes.
weeks to put a bridge to a road to the bridge. Could you imagine the hill of traffic Scotland replacing all the roads? I mean, never mind Scotland becoming independent. Scotland as a country could be hit by a meteoroid and the roads would still not be done. I mean, basically, dinosaurs could re-happen and 5 council offices.
Reappear.
Dinosaurs could come out the sea and it could be like, I reckon, 50-50 year or whatever. I'll say that on the record, I think dinosaurs will be back to 50-50.
Dinosaurs are already existing, are the descendants of them, actually.
Well, that's a bit harsh, you know
You're
that.
a
Like,
dinosaur.
anyway,
You're harsh, right?
I wasn't talking about Shannon, I was talking about just a generic joke.
Can I just say something?
Yeah.
Fife Council aren't doing the roads, it's Beer Scotland.
Well, I know, that's what I mean, I just think Fife
You just
Council
pass
are,
Fife
I know, it's Transport Scotland and all the...
Well, Fife Council hire them, so
Fife Council are in charge of obviously roads in Fife. And
Obviously, I mean, something that
But-
scale might be completely practical, but there are things.
in
out there that you
practical, I think
can- slightly.
me walking to the moon is more practical than replacing all the roads in
I
Scotland.
think you're right. No, but
I really fucking doubt it.
But it doesn't need to be every single road. I mean, you can just put it in there to have it as you go, maybe on the main.
I
main
see,
roads.
it's a good idea.
And then
it's
like,
a good
like say if you look at something
idea.
like a massive shopping centre or something, or a place where loads of people walk daily, put in like small.
Well, that's the American idea, is you park your car at a shopping centre, there's power points and
No,
such
no,
like.
I mean, I'm finished. You put like replace it with like small dynamos under the floors. So when you're walking, you're generating the electricity as you're walking. You're then converting people that are walking about.
So in other words, you
So-
want to turn Britain into a giant scale electric shop. Effectively.
It's like we're hamsters on the wheel. Like on a treadmill, a hamster on a treadmill. As you're walking through Asda's, you're powering the lights.
Exactly. I mean that way. So that way you're generating your electricity. You're not relying on solar. You're not relying on wind.
Aye.
You're relying on the consumer, which could be rather.
Mark,
Well, there is
This could be worse than
I think we need to get our own sort of renewable energy system for.
Toblerones.
No, we'll have to try and work with this together. I think how this is going to be planned, but I imagine something like me with this snow shovel hitting Craig on the head.
Well, that's a good. I'm the engineer or person in physics, but I'm reckoning that's a good amount of kinetic energy there.
And I think if we could make that.
You've never seen me put an effort into hitting you with a snow shovel. There's a good amount of kinetic energy there.
I think we could attempt this and try it out one day. What do you think?
I think it should be also video recorded and put online several places. I think it's a YouTube hit in the making.
I totally agree.
Aye.
I think it would be
I think the
quick.
consensus in Scotland. I think, in fact, never mind referendum. I think we'd be 100%.
I'm invoking my veto
Sorry,
right here.
next-
This is shot and this is vetoed.
You assume, right?
Yeah, so
We're
it's
talking
gonna
about
be
dictatorships. If we get Markies Rants
As a
as a
dictatorship.
dictatorship,
It is.
what Mark says goes.
There's been a democracy. I
I'm
basically
using
say
my permanent bliss to.
permanent place. You could be easily replaced. You
and
could
to be fair-
be replaced with a toaster and a ding. Ding, ding.
I prefer a Falkland.
Yeah, well, you can be replaced by a toaster. Never mind permanent place. I'm getting a permanent place. I can be replaced by anybody else called Mark, basically.
To be fair, the boys actually done really well at the minute. For weeks, he should have been in this wheelie bin, and yet it's not happened once.
These, one might say he volunteered.
Aye.
His record on volunteering is pretty. In fact, it's almost.
appropriately.
It's
It
almost.
just so happened she was rather more interested in other parties.
I think the party she was wanting was anyway.
Where-
His record on volunteering is about as good as Fife Council.
Who's editing the podcast this week?
Who's editing the podcast? I don't think there'll be.
You're on holiday, Mark. I'm working. So
Just
you
about
can
to off topic, I'll have to get going.
I think Nicole is disappearing before we start personally talking. Not that we'd do such a thing.
Now that she's at the door, I say everything Nicole said was wrong. Just talk.
No, I think to be fair, everything Nicole said was on point. To be fair, apart from the joke about history, which was fucking amazing.
You'll laugh about it later.
I missed the joke.
Yesterday was a great
I
one.
actually missed it, that's why I'm nodding at you. Alright. I would not take it offensively.
Right.
Thanks for having
Thank
me.
you.
Nice seeing you again.
I would not take it offensively, it was just, I really didn't know what you said. So I was just like,
I was just mocking history. It's a subject in general.
Like those that you said, there's I picked 5 better subjects in history or something.
Useful, more useful. Not
That's
that.
debatable.
Well, this is why we're in the debate.
What's the
so
quote?
then I think I took it personally because I just missed it.
We should say that.
What's
Nobody
the-
should take anything
what's the-
personally in this
what's
podcast.
The more the present and the future looks dull, the more we look into the past.
Yeah,
What if you lost?
When the future was dull.
Okay.
The future's bright, the future's on. Just remember that.
Recycle, the possibilities are endless, but before we go into any more cliches, I should say, nobody should take anything personally here, even when I call Craig a boat moron, it should be some cliches, but...
That's true.
That is true.
It's the first time on the podcast and she was brilliant, there you go. Well, maybe not brilliant, but... She was, that was
I'm
good
going to
having
throw
her
the
on.
blocky cheese at you later.
You're going to throw cheese at me?
Ah.
I think that'll lose a perfectly good head off your head.
I might just put on the sponges.
Aye. Christina is she's waiting on a point to slag Nicole off
Really
you.
no, it's really not going to be great, is it? Way back.
If you want to just twist that microphone around to yourself. And
Way back.
we'll hear
No way
Christina
back,
Rowley.
but like sort of no statistics, no numbers, no nothing. Like think back to like World War One, World War Two.
Oh, I wasn't around at that time.
Like all the wars, like all your families that have took part. Do you really want to lose the connection we had with Britain? We did all that. Like it's such
Yes.
a culture. But like
You was shocked.
But then you've got to take into account on that, Christina, sorry for butting in, that when it was back then, that it was like the different regiments that Scotland have. Now Scotland effectively,
One, yeah.
now Scotland effectively only have one regiment, which is the Royal Regiment of Scotland, split into like your
There's
7
a-
battalions.
there is a lot of boys in the army right now fighting for Britain, well, fighting for Britain. But on missions all around the world, do you really want to like put all of that in vain? Like it's like we've done it. For
To be honest,
no reason.
if it's up to me, I'd bring them all back. I think.
It's true.
bring
But
them
you
all
really
back.
want to think
Get them all back.
we've done all that for no reason. Like
Well,
in
that's
my opinion, they have.
history.
There
Like,
was
well,
no-
that might have been a long time ago, but history is a big part of what we are now.
Well,
Like, do you really want to lose
Well,
that?
if you hold on, if you think to the war and whatever, and say we've done it for no reason, well, we pretty much have. I mean, they went thinking, oh, when was the mass destruction? They basically done it because America said jump, and we
I
said,
know,
oh,
that's
how
another
jump.
argument. That's
Aye.
another argument.
I mean,
but as part of the UK, we've done so much, and do we really want to break away from that?
Well,
And like,
Canada for one. Scots helped set up Canada. Another thing I point out as
But World Cup was still in
I'm
Canada.
pretty sure
Surely.
it was when we had stuff with Morocco, I can't remember when it was, but when problems were going there, we were obviously newly formed into the Union. Did the King send English troops? No, he said send Scots.
Well,
Quite right,
So-
but the best.
aye, well, that is the point we made. Like, so, well, go back to World War One. If you ask the German troops who they were afraid of, their words were the ladies from hell.
Exactly, the Celts.
You've also got to
But
take into
what-
account, leading on from that, Andrew, that one of the German officers from World War One quoted to say that the Scots were lions led by donkeys.
Aye, well, to be
why
fair,
not?
like, we could say that
Was
about.
everything.
You could say
I
that about.
want to let
everything in the
Christina
world.
finish her point, and then I want to wrap up the war type talk.
the
Because
war
I've got a
talk,
strong opinion.
that's
about
what I'm, the war talk.
Right.
Like, if you think, like World War One, World War Two, without Scotland, we couldn't have done it. If England did it on their own, would we be speaking German right now?
Yeah.
Yeah, what?
So, without us, without England joining together as one, fighting the countries, I think.
But it wasn't just Britain.
Aye, you got all the
I mean,
there was a lot of
Commonwealth.
the Russians that came in.
But like,
Aye,
together,
well, well,
that is a togetherness
Yeah.
comment. If we're going to do it on our own, then
Aye.
The
I
only
want to.
reason we got involved though was because Poland got invaded.
Well,
we had
I know
Aye.
that.
See, that's going into the second
I want to
World War.
wrap up stuff about wars because I admit like in hee-haw about wars. I ken the Germans were bad, and if we've got enough money to write fuck off Germany on the moon, which is a waste of money on the Olympics. That was a joke for Russell Howard. But I think
Was there no Frankie?
Frankie Ball mocked the week, one of them. Russell Howard's done a few as well. Which we should write fuck off Germany on the moon. Wait, no! I mean,
I like Germany.
that, what are they? The
The
Olympics.
thing is,
The Olympics are a waste of money, but let me wrap up a bit on the war. If, the way I see it, this recent war, sending folk to Iraq and whatever, personally I think it was purely because America said they obviously wanted us to go.
we say jump, we say how high.
Exactly,
I know that.
I think that's what happened. At the end of the day, everybody has their own opinion on it, but in my eyes, it was completely illegal the way they done it. Obviously, it was Labour in power back then. Might have been different if it was me.
Did
It would
you
be
see the
different.
Tony Blair interview?
I haven't actually seen it because I can't stand Tony Blair.
Like, I disagree with the Iraq War, I just agree that together we achieved more than apart.
I'll
But the
accept
Tony
that.
Blair interview, he was asked if there was no weapons of mass destruction, would you have found another reason? And he said we would have found any reason.
Yeah.
to
Well,
go into that.
I
there you
think
go, but I think you need to find a legitimate reason. And I
Yes.
think, in my eyes, they went into an illegal war, and they
Absolutely.
should. Well, it was. And they shouldn't still be there. They should be brought back. And I think that's the point Nicole was getting at earlier. Is we need to stop getting into all these wars because that's what draws attention to us, and that's why so many of the terrorists hate us. It's why you see
Then
like
there's the point
Well,
where
aye, that-
like
there's
terrorist
countries.
attacks.
aye, a point to be made here. The reason the terrorists aren't going to hate us because we're in there. They already hate us. It's
I'm aware of that.
aye,
Big Smeeto.
aye. Well,
Well, that's another thing though. You see the difference in reaction when England's attacked and when we're attacked.
There's a
Oh,
major
there's a
difference here. The
difference.
bombs went off the bomb never went off in Scotland. That's where if they had the chance
That's
to do
no
anything about
difference.
it.
That's no difference.
Say for example, it was Heathrow and the car smashed into the front of Heathrow. Somebody would have done something there.
The same thing with
Just
that.
when a bomb
can't
goes off
see
in the middle of a bus, you're not expecting. You can't exactly go, hold on a minute, I'm going to beat the guy up and stop him dead.
No,
You
I
can't
think-
do that. It's not going to happen.
I think folk doing, the folk in London would have handled that a lot differently. If a car had smashed into Heathrow, I think they'd all be shitting themselves.
No, I think well, well, a lot of folk in, was it Glasgow, would have been shitting themselves.
Oh, I agree, but the thing is, in a place like Glasgow, you've got folk that are fucking insane.
No, but
And
then-
fucking London got the same
Aye.
thing, you've got worse than
I
that.
don't care about that.
Well, you just had riots down in London not too long ago.
Exactly, but they're attacking their own places.
Aye.
That's,
it, but-
that is the point of riot.
Well, that's what I mean. I mean, there's
So,
riots
so
here.
what's
I
going to
mean-
happen? You think that somebody's going to crash into Canada? You for London? No, I'm just going to blow you up. Well, that's fine then, you're not for London. It's,
No, I don't think that. But I mean, like,
Somebody would have-
you brought up the riots, and who did they send down to stop the riots? They sent Scottish police forces.
And
They
English
sent-
police
they
forces.
sent
Oh,
police
well, obviously it was
everywhere.
English police forces.
They
but-
sent police for everywhere.
Aye.
Everywhere.
But what I'm saying is, in England they couldn't handle
Even
it all because they've got a centralised police system.
And what's
that's
what
what-
happened here? Could we
No.
handle it on our own?
No, I
Who
think
would
so.
come?
The
English
No,
police.
I doubt it.
The Scottish police are shitting themselves at the minute due to cuts.
Pretty much.
Duty cuts, but
No,
I think
aye.
if it were a similar situation in here, I don't think it would actually happen here because folk are not stupid enough to do that.
Well, you've seen, well, I think it cropped up before, was it the boy in Dundee, or was it two boys
Yeah,
in
sure,
Dundee?
it's the story.
Aye.
We've covered this.
Probably off completely.
It was
different.
about
Boys at the
they tried to
restaurant.
spark riots in Dundee.
Two guys two guys.
But
Didn't happen though.
we took it as like Scotland really did take it as a joke. They were like, really, that isn't going to happen here. But what if it did spread? We would have expected help from Northern Ireland, Wales, England as a union to
But
help.
that's the thing. I don't think it would because the only way it would happen is if the folk here were daft enough to go and
But if we were in
Yes,
that
yeah.
situation,
If they were annoyed enough, and if, as you were saying earlier, it could
Yes,
well
yeah.
happen under independent Scotland, if something goes terribly wrong, people get annoyed enough, then you could have riots. However, I mean, just to backtrack a point here, back towards the days of the Empire, this is not war, the days of the Empire, just before you start going off on it.
Empire Strikes Back.
Aye, exactly.
Good film.
Scotland actually enjoyed so much under the Empire. Glasgow grew from being, probably more important, being the second city of the Empire and one industrial hub. What was the other
It's
thing?
completely not going to be independent, so.
No, but what I'm saying is that the benefits Scotland's had, I mean, Scotland's economy was much more agrarian and we weren't as developed industrially as England was. When we joined the Union in 1707, the economy changed drastically, moved much more from the agrarian side of things into the more industrialised things. On the back of that, you've got the Enlightenment, you know, and Scotland went from strength to strength as part of the Union. Would that have happened independently? Possibly. Would it have happened as fast? Definitely not.
Well, it's
It would have taken
questions
a
that
much longer time for it to come up.
you couldn't possibly know that because it's a stuff
And
that's
then-
happened in the past. You
Like
can't
you've seen that the resources you've got,
Speculation.
the resources that you have access to as part of the Union or then as part of the Empire would be vastly different to what you could possibly have as an independent country.
You've lost me,
which
I'm
greatly
finished,
helped.
I'm stuck.
talking about the past, do we want to either rely on numbers, facts, figures on the past rather than unknown
In
figures
fact,
that are going to
I
happen in the future?
didn't accept the figures that they've estimated for the future.
Exactly.
'Cause
Do you want to we rely on what 300 years of stability in the union and just some fantasy in the future?
Well, it might be 300 years of stability, but it's we're 300 whatever billion in debt, which
That's right now.
I'll mostly put on Tony Blair, to be honest. I think
Exactly.
should come to his, I think it should come to his bank account.
To be fair, I think the big thing with the debt, I can
It's Labour.
Labour fucked up, but what you remember here or not, right, the reason the whole world's in shit is because the Lehman banks went tits up. That's because the Americans were giving money to folk that couldn't pay it back.
Alright.
Right, which I'm not going to affect all the way throughout the whole world. And you the deal with Icelandic banks, I'm sorry. Tony Blair's not to blame for Icelandic banks going tits up and American banks going tits up.
Well, if there's a way, I'll find it. Anyway, basically, if independence, this is a key question. If we become independent, will Toblerones be cheaper? And I think on that,
More expensive. Much more expensive.
no, I think Toblerones, in fact, will be cheaper. And on that note, I think we're going to wrap up for this episode because we have we've rambled on quite a bit. So I want to wrap up.
And penguin paper?
That depends. Is Toblerone an English company?
Swiss.
Swiss.
Some pay more import tax.
Says who?
Dearer Toblerones.
Says who?
Says me.
No, we could broker a deal
If
with
we
the
have to
Swiss.
import it, then it's going to have to
Well, the
be
Swiss
Yeah.
are
So,
quite
we
big- the Swiss
can-
are
we
quite
can
big
make
fans of haggis.
Yeah, we can make a deal, swap them. We'll give you Iron Brew, you get Tolerance. Fuck, we'll share. We'll meet in the middle. We'll share. Anyway,
We'll give you a casket.
Don't worry.
oh, we'll send a casket to the fucking moon. I want to wrap up. I want to thank. We've had the best amount of guests on this week. It's been fantastic. I want to thank Nicole who couldn't
Yeah.
quite make it to the end.
Can I just ask,
No, you didn't.
I know, but
Every week.
thought we're in an extra long episode and splitting it out
This has been extra long. Trust me.
That was not that long.
Trust me, it's been extra long.
No,
It's
really.
been long
No,
enough.
really.
It's been long enough for me.
It's about an hour and 45 minutes, I thought.
That's barely the longest we've actually had.
Well, that's an hour and 45 minutes on record, and remember you have to add 10 minutes for intros and exits.
And you'll be cutting as well.
You must remember to
No, I'm
record
not.
your intro, Mark.
Yep,
Well,
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 it's 1 hour and 45 minutes on raw recording. That usually add on average about 10 minutes to that. And we can record extra stuff after if you want, but I think we have rabbited on enough about independence. It's obviously a debate you could go on forever, but I didn't have the time and I'm hungry. So I want to wrap up, and I hope everybody's got enough of their say. And to be honest, what you should listen to your arguments, but in no means make your judgment only on what we say. You should definitely go and think about yourself.
We never even really got to discuss the Nordic model, which were
She was beautiful. Anyway,
And I mean, in saying that, I mean, just to, I don't know.
I didn't want to continue on. I want to wrap up
I don't
here.
know what you were saying there. I was going to support your point. I wasn't arguing
I
against you.
know, but I want to wrap up. I didn't want to keep going on. Like I say, we want to thank Nicole, especially for coming. It was her first week. I didn't think she knew quite what to expect. But I hope she enjoyed herself anyway. Also, Chloe Henderson, no usually a part, but she's here, been happy, looking brown in the corner. Also, Shannon Bell joining us this week, just having a wee sleep there, arguing at anything about boats. Having a wee laugh, listening to One Direction in the background.
I've had this shit to listen to One Direction.
Right, good place. Anyway, see, having a wee laugh in the background.
Just casually.
We'll also thank Michael for joining us this week. Brilliant to have you on as well. First time for you. Absolutely. Christina's back. It's a specialist topic, is politics. But anyway, the key point that I wanted to leave you with is think about it. Toblerones and independence. I'm much made in heaven. I did want to say as well, in no means make your decision, especially if you're under 18, you're no voting anyway, but if you are...
that's another point that could have been brought up.
Yep, aye, it could have been. But if you're eligible to vote, if you're no a fucking junkie in prison or something, and you're over 18, get voting. Don't miss a vote. It's very important. Vote appetite, it's right on my tits. If it was up to me, Michael does like tits. If it was up to, thanks for that. If it was up to me, I would be able to come and scalp every one of you that didn't vote. So please do vote. It doesn't bother me whether you vote yes or no. It's your decision, and I hope certainly that you take account of the arguments we'll put across and research it for yourself, because we've no covered, even I've barely covered bits yet, mostly about boats, which are useless. But I want to wrap up and say thanks for listening this week. I'm Mark Lamont.
I'm Andrew Dees.
I'm Christina Graham.
I'm Michael White.
And I'm Craig Doherty.
Thank you.
I've been sitting way too long.
Sorry, but that was at 1 minute. That was at 1 hour 50 minutes, and I didn't want to go any longer.
I have to
8
admit, I
hours
think
of
disappointed.
maths.
I thought the idea was
I
to
know.
make an extra long one over 2 weeks.
Oh, sorry, but I couldn't go any
Yeah, well, that would be
longer.
standard.
We can keep going if you want to keep going, but
Well,
I want to cut it there for that one episode.
Mark, I must admit, I'm rather impressed with you.
Yeah, but
You did not descend into shouting and swearing and
no,
screaming and bawling.
I don't think that's fair.
I think a round of applause for Mark.
I think at certain points you did deserve to be interrupted, and so did I, and there was a lot of things, but I think in general everybody deserved and got their point across when
Bits of their point.
well, we could go on forever,
We
Mike.
did really
It is
well on the
Michael.
no interrupting part.
See, when you brought up the thing that a point I wanted to across was about the whiskey. I never even got to that.
That's for me.
I watched the whiskey. I watched the whiskey.
No, but when he brought up originally about the
Keep
whiskey,
it
I
going
had a
after you
point.
save that.
Yeah, well that's like I say, we can still record on Monday.
I definitely think there could be a second part to it. Like.
That was the point.
It's fine with me.
Aye, but we're covering
I was
the
prepared
always
to
go doing
defend
that as well. Like I said,
No, if
foreign
it was a
Scandinavian
defence
that.
bit more on
It depends with the
side
time,
of the day,
what everybody
maybe
wants
the
to
morning
do.
or no
I
be.
will, seriously, see if I was able to get like proper debates
We're
there,
not going to get
like,
covered
I would have been
with
much better prepared than I was there. We did get straight in it, wasn't it? Like, okay, so but see the bits I was saying in that narcissistic bit, and that was like my tying up on the last two paragraphs. I was able to go through
Sorry, I
it
need to
there.
record this.
And the last two paragraphs were pretty ornate and like sort of wax
Well, we can keep recording.
thrown to the
If
bed.
everybody's...
I enjoyed it at that time. I felt like a
Like you were, that was brilliant.
good argument.
I was surprised that I didn't get as much abuse. I was expecting more abuse towards me.
No, most episodes you would have, but I was trying to be serious.
This is a
You
serious.
see, I was on the verge of giving abuse to people, but I didn't think Shannon would.
Yeah, I know, I just remember
What?
you mentioned the 7 votes for Scotland and that, had points about that and that and
See, that's why I wrote stuff live.
That's
There was
what
so
happened.
much stuff that you could have added, but
I wrote it,
Okay.
but
Well,
still.
it's up to you. I'm going to get something to eat
No, that's
on
what
after
I'm
that.
better.
That's what we could have done. Like, looked at it and went, okay, what are the 3 topics this independence debate? And
Too
then I
much
went through.
preparation though. I wouldn't want for preparation.
I can, you know, but I was
It's just like 5 points.
No, really.
Economic.
Like, you had already had them written down. That's what it says to you before we start. That you
No,
had
I-
them-
defence,
tax. Well, like,
Maybe
it was
if
looked at it and
everybody
went, like,
made
look, okay,
pictures,
let's, we can't find quite
stuff I'd
interesting.
read in the
Was
news.
David Cameron's speech when he was up here. Because
I've
essentially,
not watched it yet.
I did- I did try to get everybody in a
he should
favour
have said,
like
get the
that.
fuck
I do
out of here.
apologise if I didn't.
Because if we get to
But
Scotland,
we'll
he
continue.
would be leading a very comfortable
I
majority.
will, right, it's still streaming and live.
Because obviously the Lord Dems that came from up here,
Yeah, it's up to
that's
you.
offset his majority.
Well,
They would be there, the Labour folk would
Because
be
I
there,
live here.
England would be Wales and around here the majority.
Nice to
Whenever
find
you
out.
want.
I've got to
I think
finish
it's
at 6 o'clock
right.
tomorrow if that's
It's
good with you.
interesting.
That's fine with me.
And
I
then also the
have to
fact
stop
that he's
there
willing
for
to
video.
give Scotland more developed
Ah,
powers is also interesting.
They say I've got down the
Because
plan
traditionally
for
Conservatives have
24
been, you've got what you've got, you're not getting it.
It's basically because I'm going to give you some gifts and maybe you'll
I've stopped the recording, but we're still live on your stream so folk can hear us.
At the end of the day, that's still actually quite an interesting way to go though, because I mean it's compromise right at the end of the day.
And I'm
And
like,
that's how it
you're
works.
hungry. I'm right. Sure. Hungry?
I'll grab some when I find in the road now.
Sure, I'll put a pizza on. And
Ah,
I'll eat it,
okay.
obviously.
You're putting a pizza on?
Yep.
Somebody's expecting you to go to McDonald's.
No. I'm fucked for McDonald's.
Try
on
to phone one. So.
I'll chip in if you want to phone someone.
Well, I could. What's the Taliban? place?
Istanbul.
No, then you just
Shut
have about they're horrible, man.
Oh, alright. Well, where would you
Mark,
like
it's
to
Monday night, missed places will be shutting down.
No.
No, Taliban.
Sekia's open till midnight.
It's only 10. Taliban's
half
up to like
10.
half.
Well, I mean, if you go to Kennedy, Ramzan's is shut.
Ah, that's horrible, I know.
Little Friar is shut, you see it?
Like, it's there's no fucking there.
And
We're
then
not past
the
it.
sides have been ripped too, and
been
then they're
what?
getting totally renovated.
Insurance job.
I got
It's an insurance job.
The-
From what I've heard through the
I'm
grapevine.
going to get going.
It's like Istanbul again.
So it's
It's
been a
Which has
long
been
day.
like nuts or something.
Job centres more.
What I heard was it was in a little electrical
Thanks
fault
for
with one
coming
of
in.
the
It's brilliant.
flyers.
Right,
I was getting this.
we went past there, wasn't it? It was last Monday we went past when the barricades were up.
Tuesday, we walked around.
No, I mean, Monday night, I was Monday night. When we went past it, I goes, oh, that's shut. No, it was the week before that when we went up to your dad's.
I can't remember. Anyway, thank you for coming. Sorry you were so tired and I was a bit grumpy to start with. It's just,
Ken.
I get really
Shannon,
tense
you
when
haven't, you've seen
things
it.
aren't working and folk are annoying me.
To be fair, you can't blame yourself trying to find a programme that was going to get to work, man.
We did eventually. No, we didn't. We went with 2 separate systems.
Yeah.
But we'll have it all ironed out for next week. It's a first week yet.
Need me back next week? And you were busy all
Absolutely,
day.
if you can be.
Yeah.
Aye.
You want
Next week
a
we're
logo
going.
design, by the way.
Aye. Might not be as late though.
Can we start? Aye, because we can
Aye,
start
yeah,
on the work
I
next. I
didn't
think
mind
I'm
what
on next
you
Monday,
did,
so we can start there. I'm built to start.
Aye, because I'm up at like 4 o'clock.
Yes, because we've got Edinburgh, then Aberdeen. Yes.
Anyway, thanks for coming. It's brilliant. We need to get you actually on as a guest.
Going to Aberdeen after.
Come on.
I'm going to visit uni.
You just sing One Direction songs. Chloe
I'm
Hammond's
going up
good.
to Aberdeen College. I'll keep
When you're up.
to the end of March.
It was the 28th of February.
That's the only one to start. That's what I care about.
Hey!
I'm
Right,
going to see
again,
somebody
thank you.
early.
What?
I think I'm just trying to wake you up.
We've done it
Wait,
because
what,
I'm
really?
club as fuck.
You're
I'm
in
punching
Portland
the
again
pucks.
next Monday. You
Yeah.
play the
Belgium,
Independence
let's
next
go.
Monday again.
Oh, I can
Can you
make
send
some.
back?
I'll basically
You ready for
ask
this?
you so I can keep recording the night if you want. If you would prefer McDonald's, I don't mind, or if you want to go to Taliban place, or if you want me to put pizza on, to
Mark,
be honest,
what's
fine.
the next one?
You mentioned
McDonald's as soon as she says she's leaving.
Aye, exactly. I feel
No, I
like
didn't mind. I'm honestly, I'm not.
there's
you
no
know,
food in the car.
As soon as you say you're fucking leaving, we're leaving. We're not going to McDonald's, yes, but when we do leave,
It's up to
As
yourself.
I say, every
You
week,
spoke too soon.
you decide,
wait till the
I'll
end
give
of
you
the
a vote.
day.
No, not at all.
Disgraceful.
Thank you for coming. Thank you.
Cheerio.
Right, see you.
Thank you.
Actually, Mark, can I get drinks?
Right, try to do it.
You came prepared, didn't you?
There's
What do you mean? I came prepared. I love prepared. Have you seen the bottles of juice I've got up there?
Yes,
Where's
I'm
the
pretty
alcohol
sure.
you've got there?
Mark, I'm pretty sure it was me and you that picked them up there.
Pretty sure it was me that put it up there.
I've already
I'm not
ruined again on next Monday. You just did the second part of the independence.
Yep, that's fine.
Well, that depends if you want me to do it or not.
Anytime welcome.
Everything could change by next week, and there could be major developments in it.
You can probably go
Well,
wherever.
rumour has it there's supposed to be a crunch meeting at some point this week regarding...
Before we carry on, just so well, I remember I want to record the intro,
Aye,
so if
better.
you could be quiet for just 2 seconds, that'd be fantastic.